Coming up in this new vlog series, I board the Celebrity Apex. It's my first time trying out Celebrity cruises, so join me as I check out the ship, find out what a solo infinite veranda stateroom is like, and check out all the entertainment on board as I start this 7-day cruise around the Caribbean and Bahamas. It's cruise day. Well, it's actually also disembarkation day, because I'm disembarking the Enchanted Princess this morning at Port Everglades, and before I disembarked I was delighted to step out of my balcony and to find that right across the road is my new ship, the Celebrity Apex. So that's docked at Celebrity's terminal, their flagship terminal at Pier 25, which is where all their Edge class ships actually dock. I'm embarking on a 7-day cruise, and it's going to include 3 ports of call. So we'll be calling at St. Martin, Puerto Rico, and also at Perfect Day at Coco Cay. Now, given my very short journey time this morning from literally across the street, I was outside Pier 25 waiting to board by 9 AM. Needless to say, disembarkation from the Apex previous cruise was still ongoing at that stage, so it was a case of trying to find a seat in the shade because it was too early to even begin to queue. By about 9:30, luggage porters began accepting baggage from passengers waiting to board the cruise, and after that I joined the Premium Access line. So as you can see there, purchasing the Premium Access comes with a number of benefits. It includes super fast Wi-Fi for 2 devices, it includes lunch on boarding day, and it does mean that you can access the ship earlier. So the terminal building opened at about 10 AM, and first guests to obviously go in were the suite guests, those who were in the retreat. After that it was the Premium Access guests who were next to board, and it was very straightforward. I had done my check-in online beforehand, and all that needed to be done on reaching the top of the escalators was to simply scan my QR boarding code and passport, and that was it. I was through to the waiting area. It took about 40 minutes in there, and I was actually on board by about 10:45. Boarding the ship was actually a little bit disappointing. I felt it was really underwhelming as there was no sense of arrival. There were no staff waiting to greet passengers, and it was all just a case of go in and find your own way. So after checking in at my muster station, which actually happened to be in the art gallery immediately adjacent to where I boarded, I then set off to begin exploring this ship, which is completely new to me. The Celebrity Apex is the second in the Edge class of ships from Celebrity Cruises. So it's been sailing since 2021, and it has a gross tonnage of 130,818 tonnes. It can accommodate over 2,900 passengers, that's based on double occupancy, but many staterooms obviously have capacity for more than 2 guests. It also has over 1,300 crew members. Now, after checking out the Grand Plaza, which honestly it didn't seem that grand to me, I then made my way through this really creepy corridor towards the aft of the ship as I wanted to check out Eden. Now, I had seen already online on various YouTube videos that Eden is a pretty unique multi-purpose space. It includes bar, dining and entertainment facilities and is arranged over multiple decks. So what I'm already seeing around the ship is that there are so many different seating areas and so much very distinctive artwork. It certainly does create the right impression of this being a premium cruise line. After checking out Eden, my next mission was to find the magic carpet. So that's basically the structure that appears to hang off the side of the ship. It's cantilevered off the side, and it can basically go up and down and be stationed at various decks. So it's sometimes used as the actual landing deck if you're getting off in port, and other times it's just used at a higher deck for a fantastic view. So I came across it on deck 14, the pool deck. My lunch experience was courtesy of the Premium Access perks, and that was a full service lunch in the Tuscan restaurant, so that was down on, I think it was deck 3. So that's one of the 4 main dining rooms on board, and that lunch was reserved for concierge guests and those who had purchased the Premium Access. So after that I made my way towards the staircase at the front of the ship as I headed to deck 6, where I checked out my solo infinite veranda cabin, I think that's the right title, for the first time. I'm in Stateroom 6136, and that's located just a short distance off the elevator lobby on deck 6. It's on the starboard side towards the front of the ship. Now for a more detailed tour of my stateroom you can check out a separate video here on YouTube, but in this one I'll just give you a quick tour around it. So my first impressions were that it was a little bit larger than I had anticipated, but honestly at this stage I'm still not convinced that I'm going to enjoy this whole infinite veranda experience. A key part of my usual cruise experience is experiencing the balcony, and usually, well, always experiencing a full-size stateroom. This is actually also my first time experiencing a solo stateroom. Starting at the door, all of the usual details are there in terms of emergency access routes, details of the muster station, and there's also the magnetic card there if you want to put it out for the do not disturb sign. Just inside that there is a functional but pretty small wardrobe, so I don't really envisage that I'm going to have space to unpack all of my luggage. Bathrobes are included on Celebrity for use during your cruise as a standard item. As a newer ship, you can see the extent of technology and touchscreen facilities and so on all around the ship. So in terms of the stateroom facilities, the heating and lighting panel here is controlled by using the touchscreen, or you can also actually control the heating and lights and air conditioning from the actual Celebrity Cruises app. Now, looking at the units below, they accommodate the fridge, and that has a couple of fee items in there. I generally ask the room steward to remove items like that so I can actually use the fridge. Also on the other side it's got a safe, and there's a little complimentary carry bag there with Celebrity Cruises branding. Opposite the wardrobe in the entryway is a useful full-length mirror, and then moving on opposite that to have a look at the bathroom. Now it's a pretty good size and it has contemporary finishes, which again they're consistent with the premium nature of this cruise line. There is plenty of shelving, and thank goodness it's also a glass shower enclosure, not any sign of a clingy curtain in sight. So moving back out to the main area of the room, and there's a small desk or vanity area there. It's got a nice little mirror, and obviously it's got the usual boarding day literature there, as well as a complimentary Effie pendant. The box located to the side of this is for plugging in all your devices. It's also a really handy way, it would seem, to keep cables tidy. Now part of the documentation on the desk also includes details of my Captain's Club welcome. Celebrity Cruises is part of Royal Caribbean Group. Earlier in 2024 they introduced loyalty status matching, so I was able to match my Diamond Plus status on Royal Caribbean to Celebrity. So that means that although this is my first cruise with Celebrity, I'm actually starting at Elite Plus status. That shows the range of activities and benefits which are available especially for Elite Plus guests. The bed seems pretty standard, only time will tell if it's comfortable, and opposite that there is a reasonably good size wall mounted flat screen TV, and you can see there the menu. It can be used to access a range of functions. So moving on from there to the Infinite Veranda. Now, I was fully aware when booking this cruise that the Infinite Veranda cabins, which account for the majority on the ship, they really divide opinion, with some people loving them and some people hating them. So far, I think I'm in the reserving judgment category, let's say, as the lack of a real balcony doesn't feel quite as bad as I expected it would, but I also have the double whammy of this being the first time, as I mentioned, that I'm in a solo stateroom. That means that it's considerably smaller than most other staterooms that I've experienced, including the one on the ship just opposite there that I got off this morning, the Enchanted Princess. Now, I've also been experimenting with closing the doors to the veranda area, and I have to say that really does make the room feel quite small and claustrophobic. And if feeling claustrophobic there was no better time to head to the upper decks for sail away. We sailed today at 3:30 p.m, so a pretty early sail away. There was quite a lot of activity in Port Everglades with several other ships also there. So the Sun Princess actually left just ahead of us, and then it was our turn on the Celebrity Apex. So the ship actually had to reverse from its berth before it headed out to sea. With the varying cloud cover, it certainly made for a very interesting sunset, which I watched from my infinite veranda. Later, I had my first taste of entertainment on board Celebrity as I attended the early show in the theatre, so that was at 7:30 p.m, and it was a vocalist from the UK called Andrew Denbighshire. Now the theatre is in the round, and I felt that it made it feel quite small. It made it seem like you were quite close to the performer even if you were several rows back. After that, it was lovely to take a stroll around the upper decks and to see that beautiful rooftop garden at night. It has lots of seating, and I think it has the potential to become one of my favourite spaces on board. Back in the cabin, I found that my stateroom attendant had left a little display of fresh flowers, so that's quite a nice touch, and it's something that I haven't experienced on other cruise lines. Celebrity actually services staterooms twice a day, so as part of their evening turn-down service, they actually leave chocolates on the pillows as well, so that's quite nice. It's Sunday and officially the second day of the cruise, so I had a pretty late start today, just making it to the breakfast buffet before the lunch offerings. You definitely know you're almost late for breakfast when you see that the cakes and desserts are already on display for lunch, and my goodness, they looked really good. Because everything on this ship is entirely new to me, I actually spent quite a lot of today just exploring all over. So first of all, I popped into the club, which is on deck 5. Now, this is a 2-level space, and it seems to be used for games and entertainment and enrichment lectures and just a wide variety of things, as well as having just a bar that is open when there isn't actually any other activity on. It's a bit of a cross between, say, Princess Live on Princess Cruises, or perhaps the music hall on Royal Caribbean's Quantum class ships. And this was definitely a first for me, experiencing curling taking place on board a ship. Now, this isn't intended to be a ship tour by any means, but nonetheless, I'll take you along on a tour of the places that I came across on my wander around today. So still on deck 5 and heading from the front to the rear of the ship, I passed Raw on 5. Now, that's one of the specialty dining restaurants, and it comes with an upcharge. After that, it was a case of going past the Grand Plaza with the Martini Bar. That and the performance area are very much a central focus of this part of the ship. I have to say, my impressions by day 2 haven't really changed. Although this is called the Grand Plaza, it's not grand. And I think the sunken nature of it, because it's actually officially down on deck, I think it's deck 3, it just makes it seem a little bit out of the way as opposed to being a central hub of the ship. but that's just my impression, and I know some people actually love this space. Staying on deck 5 and over to the port side of the ship, and that's where there's another specialty dining restaurant, so that's the Fine Cut Steakhouse. Now, I haven't made any reservations for specialty dining on this cruise, so I'm not actually sure how much it costs. I think it's in the region of about $65 per person. Still on deck 5 after leaving the Fine Cut Steakhouse, and it's into an area where there are several high-end shops as well as very distinctive art pieces. Now, I have to say I know absolutely nothing about art, and the high-end shops are definitely beyond my cruising budget, but they're still nice to look at. Making my way through this creepy corridor again, I continue towards the rear of the ship, and there's an opportunity to have a little look into Blue. Now, that's the restaurant which is reserved for Aqua Class guests, so not an experience that I'll be having either. Not at the prices that Celebrity charge for solo cruising. After that, I took the stairs down to deck 4, where there are 2 main dining rooms, and that's 2 of the 4 main dining rooms on board. The same dinner menu is actually served in each of the 4 dining rooms each night. Obviously it varies on a nightly basis, but you know what I mean. But in addition to the standard menu, each of the restaurants also has a few items which are unique to the theme of that restaurant. So, for example, Tuscan obviously has an Italian offering, while Normandy has French-inspired food. We're currently looking at the Cosmopolitan dining room, and then just opposite that on the starboard side of the ship is the Cyprus restaurant. So I think the special offerings on that apparently are Mediterranean-inspired. From there, it was a case of down another flight of stairs where I found the remaining 2 dining rooms located on deck 3. They're in a similar configuration to those on deck 4. In this case, it's the Normandy restaurant, which is located on the port side, while the Tuscan restaurant is located opposite that on the starboard side. The Tuscan restaurant is the main dining room that was used yesterday for the boarding day lunch that I attended. So that was the special lunch that was for concierge guests and for guests like myself who had purchased the premium access package. As I explored further along deck 3 heading towards the front of the ship, I came across a feature that I had seen on a number of YouTube videos. It's basically where the hull of the ship is actually visible, and you can actually see notes and measurements on the metal that were obviously put there or made there during the construction process, and it's actually been left visible and turned into a very interesting artwork piece. Heading further along the corridor, it leads to the guest services area and also what seems to be intended as a library or a kind of games room. There are a number of multi-use tables which seem to be set up in a way that they can facilitate various board games and so on. Now, the guest services area is quite an open space, and it was unusually quiet, I have to say. Now, I couldn't tell whether its location has been designed so that it's pretty much tucked away out of sight, maybe a little bit difficult to find, possibly a deliberate deterrent to guests who may otherwise be going to complain about various things. Going back up to deck 4 and starting to again move forward from the main dining rooms, and I came across more high-end stores. Personally, I've never actually come across any fellow passengers who have randomly decided to purchase something like a Rolex watch while on their cruise, but presumably there is a market for this, otherwise the retail space wouldn't be occupied by something of this nature. Now, the casino is actually opposite all of this, but obviously it was a sea day, it was actively in use, so I couldn't film anything in there. As I felt I might be starting to come down with a cold, I decided to avoid the dining rooms or the buffet this evening, and instead I opted to try out the room service menu. Now, other than continental breakfast, which is complimentary, the cost for room service delivery is $9.95 plus an 18% gratuity added to that. But because I have the premium access package, it actually includes unlimited room service delivery. So once ordered, my food actually arrived within about 30 minutes, and I have to say it was reasonably hot and quite tasty, so I was quite pleased with my decision to dine in my room. Before turning in for the night, I headed down to the Grand Plaza to check out the entertainment. So there was actually a duo there, vocalist and accompanying musician, and the crowd seemed to be enjoying that, with several on the dance floor. Now, that was actually followed by the nightly performance of the bartenders at the Martini Bar. So they certainly seem to be having fun doing their jobs. The show or their performance actually lasts probably less than about 5 minutes, and it's got the lighting all illuminated at the same time. But honestly, given how much hype there is around it, I don't think it really delivered. At least for me, it seemed to be a little bit lackluster. Good morning from day 3. It's our second sea day, and this morning I have chosen to have breakfast delivered. Now, while continental breakfast is complimentary, there is actually a delivery charge if you want to order any of the premium breakfast items. So basically that's all of the hot food that's available. Now, in continuing to make use of the benefits of having purchased the premium access package, I chose to order some premium items, and that included French toast. I was happy with my selection, although I have to say the experience of eating breakfast on my infinite veranda was in no way as enjoyable as breakfast on a true balcony, so I think I'm hedging towards I don't really like the infinite veranda. Later in the morning I went to check out the activities around the ship, and I popped into the club again to see what was going on. That was a pretty well attended enrichment lecture about earthquakes.
Of when the next really spectacular earthquake will happen along the San Andreas. What we do know is someday it will happen. Someday in geologic time, there will be another massive quake along that fault.
After that, it was time to get some sunshine. Now, what I've found for the past 2 days is that the pool deck is incredibly busy. I think that's really a symptom of the infinite verandas and the fact that people don't have their own private balcony space. The indoor solarium is also very busy, so there didn't appear to be many sun loungers available there. But I was pleased to find that there was space to lounge around in the rooftop garden area. Although there's a big screen in this area, it's not actively in use throughout the day. Now, I know from the schedule of activities in upcoming days that there are some films scheduled to be shown at night. This area is also set up for pickleball during the day, and certainly many people seem to be having fun at that. Later in the afternoon, there was a matinee performance by the same vocalist who performed on the first night on boarding day. Now, his name, as I mentioned previously, is Andrew Denbighshire, and he's from the UK. Apparently, he plays quite well in Britain's Got Talent, and he has also appeared in West End productions. His act on the boarding evening included quite a lot of talking in between songs, whereas today it was more focused on the music, which was preferable. Now, I'm not quite sure. Celebrity tends to have varying rules about what shows can and can't be recorded. I think possibly for a vocalist it might be okay, so here's a few very brief clips. Later, as I enjoyed a beautiful sunset from the comfort of a sun lounger near the Sunset Bar on deck 14, I realised that the ship didn't appear to be rocking to the extent that it had been all through the first night and all day yesterday, first sea day. I was actually quite surprised at how much I could feel the motion, because it's not something that I've experienced to that extent on other ships that I've been on, particularly in waters which appear to be similarly calm to the ones we've been sailing in. The captain announced at one stage yesterday that the stabilisers were being deployed, which seemed a bit surprising given that the sea didn't appear to be particularly rough. Maybe because this is the smallest cruise ship that I've been on for quite some time, it may have something to do with feeling the motion more than on other ships. Definitely you don't feel it to the same extent on, say, for example, Royal Caribbean's large Oasis class ships. Now, it wasn't a problem, it was just a bit of an odd sensation to actually feel a constant rocking back and over. As the evening drew to a close, it was enjoyable to take yet another nighttime stroll around deck 14. I really love experiencing this part of the ship after dark. It's just really pretty and so distinctive, and it just gives it definitely that premium feel because of its design aesthetic. It's time to head to bed now in anticipation of our first port of call tomorrow morning, and that will be on the island of St. Martin. So stay tuned for the next vlog where I'll show you what I get up to around that island. For now, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please consider hitting the like button. And if you'd like to stay up to date on future vlogs and when they're released, please consider subscribing to the channel. It will be much appreciated. Bye for now.